Excellencies, distinguished colleagues and friends, congratulations on the opening of the 2015 Understanding Risk and Finance Conference. Thanks to the contributions of all of you and many, many more, the Sendai framework was adopted this year at the 3rd United Nations World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, Japan, and then endorsed by the UN General Assembly in June this year. The framework guides us to look at multi-hazard management of disaster risk across all sectors. It gives us a clear goal to be achieved by the next 15 years, that's by 2030, which is the substantial reduction of disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihoods, health, and assets of communities and countries. The framework outlines 4 major priorities for action, and today I want to specifically mention Priority 1 and Priority 3. Considering that any policy, activity and investment should be informed with reliable risk information, Priority 1 focuses on the critical need to understand disaster risk in all its dimensions, including vulnerability, capacity to cope, exposure, hazard and the changing environment around us. Priority 3 calls for increased investment in risk-sensitive public and private engagement, including structural and non-structural measures for disaster risk reduction and resilience. The implementation of the Sendai framework will be guided by its core principles, such as engagement from all of society, inclusive planning and decision-making, accounting for disaster losses, and building back better after disasters. Measuring progress will be important. The 7 global targets endorsed by the framework will be at the core for that measuring. As you are being hosted today in Addis Ababa, it is worth mentioning that Africa was the first continent to adopt a regional position on the post-2015 framework on disaster risk reduction, and also the first region globally to convene a continental meeting on the implementation of the Sendai framework. The Yaoundé Declaration, adopted at this meeting earlier this year, outlines the strategic and policy direction for the future course of action on disaster risk reduction in Africa. The European Union-funded program Building Disaster Resilience in Sub-Saharan Africa that was launched at the 3rd International Conference on Financing for Development in Addis Ababa earlier this year is also a positive step towards the enhanced international cooperation called for by the Sendai framework. Your full engagement in advancing access and use of risk information in disaster risk reduction work and the Sendai implementation will be very significant. I encourage you to identify effective strategies and approaches to preventing new risk, to reducing the existing risk, and proactively building resilience. I wish you a successful meeting, and I thank you for your continued contribution to the work towards a safer world. Thank you.